Call this meeting to order. I need to let you know that we had an executive session at 6:30. We just concluded it to discuss personnel and legal issues. At this time, will everyone please stand for the flag salute. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Brodsky, will you please call the roll.
Mr. Hauser?
Here.
Mrs. Kozer? Here. Mr. LaCasio?
Here.
Mrs. Maines? Here. Mr. McCommons? Mr. Music?
Here.
Mr. Palmer?
Here.
Mrs. Surratt? Here. Dr. Zorch?
This evening, before the superintendent's report, I just wanted to go over some housekeeping details. After the superintendent gives her report, I'm going to be opening the floor to members of the board to respond or react to what her report is going to be. At the conclusion of all the board members speaking, I will then have hearing of visitors part one. I wanted to give you the opportunity before you came up to speak to hear what the board members have to say in response to the superintendent's report. There'll be a vote this evening as to what we're going to do respecting returning to school. That will be voted on. It's resolutions 99 and 100. So when the board members talk after the superintendent's report, they may say they agree or disagree. That's not their vote. So you will get to have hearing of visitors prior to any vote being taken. But we felt it was in your best interest that you had a chance to hear what everyone has to say and then open up for hearing of visitors. Okay, this time we'll have the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. LaCasio. Good evening and welcome. It's hard to believe that we have finished our first quarter of instruction on October 30th and we're moving into our holiday season. Kindergarten through 12th grade parent-teacher conferences occurred virtually on Monday evening, and parent-teacher conferences continue today for kindergarten through 6th grade, and our secondary staff participated in professional development activities today. As you are aware, Greater Latrobe School District has been operating in a full remote instructional model since Monday, November 2nd. This change in instructional model was made due to Westmoreland County having a substantial level of community transmission for COVID-19 for 2 consecutive weeks. The Pennsylvania Department of Health and Department of Education recommendation and input from our school solicitor and local medical panel. We heard from parents voicing concerns and disagreeing with the decision to implement a full remote instructional model. My administrative team and I spoke to many individuals who contacted the district to explain that the decision was not taken lightly, nor was it made in a vacuum without a great amount of thought, discussion, and reflection on our county's COVID data prior to making the decision to take a 2-week pause with brick and mortar instruction. This Friday, November 13th, will mark the completion of the 2nd week of our full remote instructional model. As stated in my letter sent to parents on October 26th and posted on our district website, our local school building's positive COVID cases, as well as the Westmoreland County's level of transmission and positivity rates, would continue to be monitored in order to make a recommendation regarding any changes to our district's instructional model. November 6, 2020, Westmoreland County moved from substantial back to the moderate level of community transmission. The Pennsylvania Department of Education and Department of Health recommend that 2 consistent weeks of data be used before changing an instructional model. However, after reviewing our school district's numbers of positive COVID cases and discussions with our school solicitor and local medical physicians, it is my recommendation for our students to return to our blended instructional model, which includes the choice for students kindergarten through 12th grade to attend school full-time in the brick-and-mortar setting or to remain at home participating in Greater Latrobe School District online. My recommendation is for our students to return to our blended instructional model on Monday, November 16, 2020. As we transition back to the blended model on Monday, November 16th, the district will assume that students will remain in the instructional model in which they participated prior to transitioning to the full remote model. Therefore, if a student was attending school in the brick-and-mortar setting or participating in GLSD online prior to November 2nd, we will assume that will remain the instructional model of choice when returning Monday, November 16th. If a family is choosing to change their student's instructional model in which they participated prior to November 2nd, parents and guardians are asked to please contact their student's school counselor or principal to make that change. Students attending the Eastern Westmoreland Career and Technology Center will follow the Technology Center's hybrid schedule. Students have 2 options when completing their EWCTC online instruction. If the student is passing courses at EWCTC as well as passing courses at their high school, they may choose to participate in the EWCTC's online instruction from their home. However, they must have transportation to the senior high school in order to participate in their brick-and-mortar classes. If a student is not passing courses or does not have transportation to the senior high school, they will participate in EWCTC's online instruction in our high school library. EWCTC students should communicate with Mr. Maines or their school counselor regarding where they will be completing their EWCTC online instruction due to their hybrid model at the Career and Technology Center. If the Board of Education supports my recommendation to return to our blended model, our athletic committee will meet this Thursday to discuss our participation in winter sports and review further recommendations from the WPIAL and PIAA. I have also received questions regarding Greater Latrobe School District athletics and their status when our district is in a full remote instructional model. When a change to a full remote instructional model occurs, please note that all extracurricular activities, including athletic events governed by the PIAA and WPIAL, are suspended as well. As we continue to navigate this global pandemic, we are aware that students greatly benefit from face-to-face instruction and social interaction while continuing to build positive relationships with their teachers. GLSD will continue to do our very best to provide brick-and-mortar instruction for our students while keeping the health, safety, and welfare of our entire school community as a priority. Thank you.
Just as a point of clarification to make sure everybody understands, when Dr. Tepper refers to the blended model, she's not talking about the hybrid model. Blended, by blended, she means you can come to school full-time, 5 days a week, brick and mortar, or you can stay home 5 days a week and do it online, just so that everybody's clear. At this time, I'm going to open it up to members of the board, and I'm going to begin first with the board president, Dr. Zorch. So, Dr. Zorch, you have the floor. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to start with a quote. This is from Henry Ford. He said, when everything seems to be against you, remember that the airplane takes off against the wind, not with it. We've been facing a lot of challenges this school year. Obviously, the worst is this COVID stuff, which I hope will soon go away, but we have to deal with it as we're dealing with it now. I've done a lot of research about this disease. I'm not an epidemiologist, I'm not an infectious disease specialist. I was a practicing emergency room physician. I know how to do statistics, I know how to interpret this type of data. And I understand that the children in our school are at less risk than adults. In fact, the flu is much more dangerous in children than this disease is. If you look at all the information that's come out since this whole thing started, children hospitalized and dying from this disease is extremely rare. Unfortunately, it does happen. We don't want anyone to die, obviously, so we're not going to take undue risk with anybody. There is some risk always. Children less than 8 to 12, mostly are asymptomatic, sometimes have a cold. Children from 12 to 19 sometimes get sicker, but even in this age group, the chances of serious illness from COVID is extremely rare. The children that will get sick the worst are the ones with underlying conditions like diabetes, obesity, heart disease, Down syndrome, a bunch of lists of medical illnesses that can come out with various illness. Those people hopefully will probably be doing online education anyways, but they understand that those are people at risk. I think the biggest risk is to the staff. We are doing our best with social distancing and mask wearing to protect them. It is up to them to wear a mask, be safe. It's up to them to use common sense for social distancing. I think it's much easier to do that in junior and senior high school than in grade school. Unfortunately, we're not quite sure. It looks like kids younger age are least likely to transmit the disease as well. So that elementary school teachers probably are a little safer than in junior and senior high school teachers instead. We just ask them to be vigilant in social distancing and wearing their masks. I think we do bigger harm to our children by not sending them out to school. I think that we must be in school. From my opinion, from this day forward, is that we shouldn't close any more ever. I think we should keep people open unless they tell us we have to shut down. But I don't think that's a good thing. I think the thing to do is to keep the kids in school. Now, obviously, the parents are concerned and worried about it, they're anxious about it. We do have that option, keeping their child home, doing online education. So they have that option available to them. But I am going to go for the schools up. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. George. I remind the board members that we have microphones, I think, by each person. So when it's your turn, please avail yourself of that. Mrs. Surratt?
Good evening. Thank you for coming. I'm Kathy Surratt. Can you hear me? Mr. Locascio has asked us each to express to you how we feel about the vote for coming back to school this week. And I'd like to reflect back to our last vote to close for 2 weeks. I was in favor of that closing because, in my opinion, we received information from the Pennsylvania Department of Health recommending that because of our county condition, our increasing cases, taking us to a substantial level, I feel that the Department of Health is more knowledgeable on how to make these decisions than I am as a citizen of the community. They give us their recommendations with advice from physicians, public health experts, epidemiologists, and I just feel like they're the people who know. I have a deeply rooted concern for the safety of our children. I tend toward caution. I get it. Kids learn best in school. We want kids in school. We all want kids in school. We're all on this school board because we care about kids. We care about their education. We care about our community as a whole and what a good school district brings to our community, to our residents, to our taxpayers. It's a whole package. That being said, I'm not willing to downplay this virus. This virus is not the same as the flu. Thankfully, I thank God every day. I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about these decisions. Thankfully, children don't usually get sick, and they don't usually get seriously sick. That's not to say they can't. Most of them don't. What concerns me is the kids don't live in a bubble. Kids go home to parents, grandparents, community members. So we have to be conscious of the idea of spread of the virus. I think what we can do in our district is to be as cautious as we can be. And I have full confidence in Greater Lake Trip administration that they're being as careful as they can be. We social distance the best we can. I believe in our cleaning efforts as best we can. We also all know the reality of trying to live through this. Nothing's perfect. You know, we can't always keep kids with their masks on, though kids are doing pretty well with it. So I do worry about the safety of our students. I worry equally as much about the safety of our teachers, who some of them see 20 kids a day, some of them see 150 kids a day. It's hard to keep them safe. It's hard to be sure we can protect them. I worry about our cafeteria workers, our maintenance people, our bus drivers. Some of them are senior citizens. We have to be cognizant of the big picture. It's not just the kids. So, being that I was confident the Department of Health had a more knowledgeable recommendation than I could make on my own, I voted in favor of the 2-week close. Right now, our numbers within our district have stayed very low, and we have now, as a county, moved out of the substantial level. That combined with the fact that parents are given the opportunity to choose if they want to keep their kids at home and keep them full online. At this moment, I'm comfortable voting to go back to school on Monday. That doesn't mean I'll be comfortable with that 2 more weeks from now or a month from now or whatever, if things change. Because safety comes first. I value their education, but we can't educate kids who are sick and a community that is sick. So safety has to come first. Right now, I'm voting in favor of coming back Monday, unless your input tonight changes my mind. Before I turn off my microphone, and I'm sorry I'm being long-winded, I do want to appeal to parents and community members, and even those who don't have children in schools. We all play a role in keeping these kids in school by keeping our community numbers down. And that means maybe we don't have play dates, or maybe we stay in a very small bubble. We don't go to parties. And when we're on the buses, remind those kids to wear their masks on the buses. The mountain bus goes right in front of my house. There's a lot of little faces with their masks on. And I have a feeling that there's probably others on other buses too. Please wear them out with your kids. Please, when you go out, social distance, because everybody plays a role in keeping the kids in school. We can only control what happens within these walls. So thank you.
Mrs. Bain?
Is that okay? Good evening. I know this is a very hard decision, but after we made the last decision without having an open meeting, I got several calls complaining about that because parents like to be heard, and I agree with that. So I'm very glad we're doing this evening. When the parents called me, they were upset about that, but they wanted to emphasize that they were not complaining about the way the teaching was being done. They were very complimentary to the teaching staff and how much they were reaching out to really try to help the kids. I'm very proud of them for that. I remind, if you happen to be at the October 13th meeting, you know we have 2 student representatives that come to our meeting all the time, Emma Benton and Lauren Visitanti. When their report was over, the question was asked to them how they felt school was going. And they were so excited about reporting that everyone was so happy to be back in school, and that's where they wanted to be, and that things were going very, very well. I was thrilled to hear that. I also think the kids belong in school whenever possible. And I think the teachers do a great job teaching them. And the teachers, although they're doing a great job online, are at their best in a school building. And I also want to emphasize that if there are parents here who do not want their kids to come back to brick and mortar full time, you have that option of staying at home. So you can just exercise that option by going to your principal. If you want your kids back in brick and mortar, I think that's the way most parents think from what I've heard from people, and that's what I'm going to support this evening. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I'd like to thank you all for being here. My thoughts are this. We sat in these meetings and agonized since last March and May and so on. And gone through this whole bit and lived with it and lived through it as all the families did and all the children. Right now, I think the health and welfare of the children and our teachers are of the utmost importance. I think that we have to rely on the numbers that we're seeing from the county and rely on our staff and our teachers to do a good job. I think that they've got a good plan together. Get the kids back in the bricks. The kids don't want to come. That's okay too. We understand that. And we're doing the best we can to do that. I think over the last 2 weeks, our teachers gained a ton of experience doing that, and we're comfortable teaching at home. But you got to get the kids back. I'm particularly concerned about the kids that are in our special education groups, and I think that there's a deep my understanding is that they're struggling and struggling more than most. Other kids with emotional problems are struggling as well. They don't have their friends. Half of them don't have parents in the house half the time. Caregivers taking care of them, or somebody's taking care of them, but they're not making the connection they need to make with our kids and with our teachers and with our staff. And I think that the health and welfare of them, not only the education part, and that's important. I know they'll get that when we get it back in the bricks or when they're getting it online. But I think having them in our arms, in the teachers' arms, in our staff's arms, is the way to be doing what we have to do. And I'll be voting to move back to brick and mortar this evening. Thank you for your time.
Mr. McCummins? Do you have anything you want to say, sir?
Nope.
No? Okay. Mrs. Cozart? Yeah, I'm working my way back.
Well, you just need to figure out.
You're up, Biden.
Is this on that?
Yes? Okay. Thank you all for coming this evening. I love seeing the public come to our board meetings. because I think it enlightens all of us up here, and it keeps us accountable, and it also lets all the rumors and all the gossip and all of that kind of stuff get brought out into the light. And reality hits. And you may or may not know, I was against going back full brick and mortar for our secondary. I think our elementary teachers are doing an extraordinary job for our little guys. And the fact that they're less susceptible and perhaps have less chance of transmitting the virus, they're just doing amazing jobs. Our building principals, everybody at the elementary levels are doing great. They keep those kids in little bubbles, they're learning, everything's fantastic. I have a lot of concern about our secondary, not because of our teachers or building principals, but because of the physical plant that our secondary students are in, and the fact that they have to change classes, walk in tight hallways, aren't always cognizant of wearing their mask properly, all of those things that teenagers tend to do. I've spent a lot of time annoying Superintendent Dr. Tepper with my annoying questions and holding everyone's feet to the fire. I understand, perhaps more than most of my fellow board members, I am the child of a single parent. I get how hard this environment is for any parent, single parent, trying to navigate work and teaching and online teaching of their students. I get that. I will hold our administration's feet to the fire to make sure that our students and our staff, our first priority must be the health and welfare of our students and our staff, and therefore our larger community. Having said that, I am cautiously optimistic. I'm very optimistic. They'll do their best. I will vote for this going back to school on Monday, primarily because of that population of students that really use our schools as a safe place. Education isn't just about academics anymore. Our students come to our buildings with all kinds of issues. The structural problems that are identified during a virus and a COVID outbreak like this, more than most. Those are the students that keep me up at night, concerned about their welfare, what their environment, their learning environment is at home, what their home life is like, all of those issues. So because of that, and because I know the administration will do their best to provide the correct protocols for our students and staff to be safe. And I will continue to be a thorn in their side to make sure that they're following those guidelines. I have one last thing to say, and this is to the public. And I'm probably reiterating what everyone feels on this board. We can't do this job in isolation. If you want your schools open, you've got to meet us part way. You've got to wear the mask and you've got to cover your nose. Your kids have got to wear the mask and cover their noses. Their teachers do not need to spend half their day telling them to cover your nose. Teach them at home what to do. Tell them. Take part in this decision. Support us in this decision. Don't allow big parties. Do your best. You know what you need to do. Socially distance. Do all of the things. You want us to be open. You got to help us. And they're easy things to do. So, end of my rant. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight. It's good to see a lot of faces out there. I'd also like to thank our staff and utmost our admin team for all the work they've done this year. They've had a very challenging year. We've been through 3 educational models already this year. And I'm hoping this is the last one and that we can get the kids back in the brick and mortar. I know their emotional health, they need this. I'm a parent of sons in the school district, so it's very important safety. But I have utmost confidence in our admin team and our staff that our kids are safe in the schools. And I support this 100%.
Yeah, I'll wait.
Okay, then I'll continue. For me, this has been a difficult decision. It was a difficult decision a couple of weeks ago when we had to decide to close down. And like everyone else on the board, I've spent a lot of time reading and trying to learn as much as I possibly can. One of the things I read was an article from Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of the UK, and he was going to have to enforce stricter restrictions. And one of the first things he said was, but we are keeping the schools open because the education of our students is essential. I don't know why we don't see teachers as the essential part of our community as much as they are. Our teachers and the education of our children is essential. I voted to take the 2 weeks off because it would also give me an opportunity to see what else the state was doing. The state was saying, okay, if the county is substantial, schools, we recommend you close. So I wanted to watch and see who else is going to close. Not other schools, but what about anything else? Nothing else closed. Nothing. Nothing changed. The only thing that closed were the schools, which service the lowest at-risk group going. And so that upset me. Because if it's so substantial that schools have to close, well, then I'm sorry. So should McDonald's and Wendy's and Walmart and everything else. Because schools have got to be understood to be essential. And so I will be voting as well to get our kids back to school. Is there anything else that any other board member wishes to state before I have hearing of visitors? Okay, then at this time, this is an opportunity for anyone in the audience to speak about any item on our agenda tonight. There will also be time at the end of the meeting to discuss any other concerns. Please remember the 5-minute time limit. When you come up, please make sure you give us your name and address. Thank you. At this time, it's open for hearing of visitors.
Matt Berger, 3 Sassafras Lane, Union Township. Notice a big venue tonight. I'm guessing it's not because you're expecting a lot of people here for your water financing. You're making the right decision tonight. Please, stay the course. Stay open. Since when, as a society, do we sacrifice our children for our well-being? That's backwards. Anything less than 5 days a week, butts in the seats, being educated, isn't acceptable. If my kid goes to school, especially when you're offering 100% remote, if I want it, it's my decision. If my kid goes to school and gets sick, man, that's not on you. That's on me. That's my decision. You gave me an option. I didn't have to take it. I put my kid in school. If I'm driving home tonight, I'm in a car accident and I get hurt or killed, whose fault is that? Potentially somebody else. It hit me, but it wasn't your fault for having a school board meeting tonight. It was on me. I'm not going to bring up any of the other points on being open or being closed. I'm sure you've heard them all before. You've discussed them amongst yourselves. Except this. It was some months ago when Governor Wolf made the comment that he didn't see issuing an order closing down the schools again wholesale this fall and winter. And this was months ago, before he had any idea what the condition on the ground was going to be. I can only assume that's because he understood as a politician that it was very unpopular. I think you understand that too, because you elected to hold the meeting tonight here. Going forward, I think he may get pressure to take additional steps to close schools or close McDonald's or Walmart's or whatever, which he'll let them go. Maybe he'll come back here and he'll throw more recommendations at you to close. Don't. It's too important. The education of our kids is too important. Everything we're doing here, everything, this building, all the other buildings, and you, is only for the education. If we're not going to educate the kids, and doing it over the computer is nice, but come on, that's just market time. That's not ideal. Everybody agrees on that. If we're not going to educate the kids, then what do we do? We can't sacrifice their future. That's all I have.
Thank you.
I know I'm not alone on island here. I wish other people would
Thank you.
speak.
Anyone else who wish to address the board? Anyone else?
Good evening. Tom Gobble, 3504, State Road 982, Latrobe, PA. I'll agree with you. Listen, I'm going to tell you, I'm a bus driver for the school district. I think you guys, and I appreciate Mike calling me back. This is Mrs. Baines. I'll tell you, I was very heated after a week and a half. I've simmered down. I personally think you guys made the wrong decision to close it. I mean, when you have elementary kids coming up to you and saying, I'm afraid I'm going to fail, if we're going back online, that I didn't do good in March, April, May. That tells you something. Listen, like I said, my daughter's third grade at Bagley. She has an IEP. Just spoke to Mrs. Stewart tonight. She's going backwards. You guys, like, I will agree with him. I understand you're going to get pressure from other people, politicians, but you got to do it for the kids. You know, like I told Mike when I spoke with him that Wednesday, listen to Hempfield, their administration wanted to shut down. The board listened to the parents. They decided to stay open. The reason was staying open for the mental health of the kids. I mean, the kids do wear the mask on a bus, I will tell you that. We, as drivers, tell them, and I think they know. Like, I will tell you, like I told Mrs. Baines, this is the happiest I've seen kids in years to come back to school. They're happy, you know, let them be in school. And I told Mrs. Baines this also, I think, and I told Mike, if there ever was another discussion about closing down, I think it should be a special board meeting, and we see how everybody goes. Come and listen to the parents, you know, people who are single moms. I had to hear that on my bus ride. Like I told Mike, 100% of my parents wanted their kids to go to school. So I think, you know, going forward, hopefully, we don't need to go down this road again, but if we do, I think it'd be, you know, nice to have a special meeting again, and leave it, have the parents come up and talk to you guys, and then let's see how the board goes. So, 2 weeks to calm me down, I still, like, Mike will tell you, I sang your guys' praises all summer, but I did not sing your praises on this. It's just not because of me driving bus and that stuff. I see my daughter the last 7 days struggle, you know, so hopefully you guys keep this going. I think you've done an excellent job, except for shutting down. Other than that, I think you guys have done great, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you just hold on 1 second, this gentleman, he was walking the whole way from the back, so.
Dennis Klein from 539 Alexander Road, Litchfield, PA. Just reiterate what everyone else is saying, you guys are saying too. I agree with the decision to go back to school. We should, the kids are our future. We do need to make a sacrifice ourselves. I agree with you with Walmart. I mean, if Walmart's not closed, the public schools are closed. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay?
Hello, Angela Rostlowski, 4021 State Route 92. It's a pleasure to hear you guys are hoping these kids are going back. I manage a very high volume salon. I am a non-essential worker. So we were closed to my salon, which is right here in the Lakeshore Walmart Smart Style. My concern is for your senior students at the Eastern Westmoreland. They need that hands-on for the future. I've reached out many times to hire those girls to work for me. So I'm hoping eventually they can get their hands on customers and do what they have to do. As far as I have to follow CDC and State Board of Cosmetology regulations, so I understand the importance of someone who's concerned being in the classrooms. The CDC and the State Board now, we are allowed to do mustache and beard trims. So we do 400 or 500 customers a week in the salon. My stylists are wearing masks, washing their hands constantly. If my salon and none of my girls have gotten sick, the students can sit in the classroom and get a great education with amazing teachers. So let's get them in there, please.
Thank you.
Hi, Jason Thomas, 159 Clover Circle, Latrobe. I just wanted to commend the board for their thoughtful decision. I think Mr. Locascio hit the nail on the head. Our kids are smart and they see what's going on in the community. They see a casino opening. They see all the other things that are going on in the community. And our schools are not driving the community spread. And I think it's very commendable that the board took all those things into consideration. I think that if there is further community spread, which some of the data from the last few days indicates, we need to question why is that happening and it's not coming from the schools. And I commend you with your plan to send our kids back to school. They really need it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Trisha Elliott. I'm 100 Houston Street, Latrobe, PA. I would like to also address what Angela mentioned about the vocational program. I do have a senior in the program who is not getting the hands-on instruction she needs. We own a machine shop in Latrobe. These trades have to be hands-on. I don't know where the discussion's falling short, that we're not getting this for our kids and it needs to happen. You can't learn a trade sitting on a Zoom class 2 hours a week. It's just not working. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who'd like to come up and address the board? Anyone else? Okay, there will be an opportunity at the end of the meeting as well to address any other concerns. At this point, we're going to continue on then. I'm going to move for the adoption of resolution number 97, approval of the minutes. Can I have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved as recorded. Solicitors report, Mr. Nichols.
I recommend that you move on resolution number 98, settlement of tax assessment appeal.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion on the floor and a second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? That motion carries.
Nothing further, Mr. President. Mr. Vice President.
Thank you.
Pro Tem.
I don't want to be president. This is bad enough. Mrs. Baines, Education and Planning.
Thank you. We'll start with our student report with Lauren and Emma.
Good evening. There's not much to report on since we have been learning online, but as you all know, no students were in school today because of the Activity Day, and there will be no class tomorrow because of Veterans Day. At all elementary schools, the report cards were mailed out on November 9th, and like Dr. Tepper reported, parent-teacher conferences were held today, November 10th. At the junior high school, report cards were available on HAC starting November 6th, and parent-teacher conferences took place November 9th.
In the senior high, report cards will be available on HAC November 13th. The student council will also begin making the annual Thanksgiving baskets this Friday. In the past, the food has been donated from the students, but this year monetary donations along with some food donations were provided from the staff, and student council covered the rest. The baskets will provide 30 families in the community in the junior and senior high schools with enough food for Thanksgiving dinner. National Honor Society will provide Christmas gifts for 10 children within the school district. All NHS members have been broken down into 10 groups, and each group has been assigned one child from either Bagley or Litchfield Elementary School. The girls' tennis team placed second in the state championship at Hershey, and one boy, Dante Fresquero, qualified and competed at the state cross-country meet and placed 59th. The yearbooks are on sale via the senior high school website, and this year's school play, Love No Barriers, will be live streamed November 20th, 21st, and 22nd on the school webpage. The play will be available to those who buy tickets online, and that's all. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations to our sporting team, tennis team, and Dante as well.
The next item on the agenda is the enrollment report prepared by Mr. Marenta. Do you have any comments?
Well, the only thing between the board and the vote to reopen our schools is me, so I'll be brief with the enrollment report. Prior to the 2-week shutdown, we had 3,065 students in the brick and mortar setting and 510 in GLSD online, and I would just reiterate what Dr. Tepper said in her opening comments. We will assume that your child is going back to the mode of instruction that they had picked prior to the shutdown or the pause. If you desire a change, please reach out to your building principal or their school counselor. The rest of the enrollment report is attached. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Marenta. I will move for adoption of resolution number 99 to approve the updated Greater Latrobe School District's phased school opening health and safety plan for the 2021 school year and authorize administration to submit the plan to the Pennsylvania Department of Education and post publicly on the district website as required.
Are there any questions or comments? For those of you who may recall in the beginning, I said that there would be 2 resolutions that needed to be passed in order for us to go back full-time brick and mortar. This is the first, and the one that follows it. Resolution 100 is the second. So these are the 2 votes that need to be taken. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? That resolution passes.
I also move for adoption resolution number 100 to approve the updated Greater Latrobe School District's continuity of education plan for the 2021 school year and authorize administration to submit the plan to the Pennsylvania Department of Education and post publicly on the district website as required.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor and a second. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
I'm going to bundle resolutions number 101 and 102. 101 to approve the Bayada Home Health Care Agreement for the professional services for the 2021 school year. And 102 is to approve the Bayada Home Health Care Agreement for professional services for student A for the 2021 school year.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Those motions carry.
I move for adoption of resolution number 103 to approve the Greater Latrobe School District Teacher Equity Plan for the 2021 school year.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? That resolution passes.
The Curriculum Committee meeting minutes from the meeting on Tuesday, October 20th, 2020 are attached. And the next Curriculum Committee meeting will be on Tuesday, January the 19th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. here in the CSC. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Mays. We're now going to go to finance. Since Mr. Hauser is on the phone, I'm going to go ahead and take care of it. And just like I did at home, I'm going to give it to somebody else to do. Mr. Watson.
Okay, resolution.
No, the bond refinancing presentation. No, I'll do the resolution. I'm not doing the finance presentation.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Scott Shear, who's our financial advisor, he works with Public Financial Management. He's going to review an opportunity that we have regarding refinancing of our 2016 bond issue. So I'll turn it over to you, Scott. Thanks for coming.
All right, thank you, Dan. Good evening, everyone. Will the presentation be shown up on the screen? That's what you're trying to do? All right, again, good evening, Scott Shear with PFM. I think I also saw on the screen earlier, your bond counsel, Tom Lynch, was on as well. So this evening is a little different for me. It's been a year or two since I've been here. In 16, 17, and 18, I was here for borrowing new money for your various capital projects. This evening, very different. Now we're looking at actually refinancing one of those debt instruments, similar to maybe the way you might think about refinancing your mortgage. So when we sold those bonds back in 2016, 17, and 18, they were all sold with various call dates or prepayment dates that give the school district the ability to refinance at a certain time if interest rates weren't. Well, now we're at that point where one of them does make sense. So maybe about a month ago, I reached out to your business office, talked about the idea, and thought it'd be good to move it forward through the different protocols. And so this evening, I want to kind of go through this brief handout, and then you have a resolution before you to entertain as well. So I will go pretty quickly through this. But basically, on this page here, if you look at the bottom interest rate chart, there's three different charts, and we'll focus on the bottom one. This goes back about a year or two. It's an index of municipal interest rates, basically a 10-year rate. So it's not specifically related to this school district, but it gives you a general proxy of interest rates. And you can basically see where we are on the right-hand side. We obviously experienced quite a blip in the spring of this year when the pandemic first hit, but the market corrected itself pretty quickly thereafter. And so again, overall, to be considering this potential refinancing, it is a good time in the market. Just a couple of key points to get us acclimated with this transaction. So in the middle, what we're targeting are the series of 2016 bonds. And again, remember, to fund that prior capital project, we actually issued 3 different bond issues, like I said, 2016, 17, and 18. Here, we're just focusing on the 16 bonds. There's about 8.1 million outstanding. The call date is April of 2022. The final maturity is October of 2027, and the average rate of those existing bonds is a 4%. So the goal would be to go from that 4% down to something lower to achieve some kind of economic benefit. And so if you did, kind of like what you hear this evening, tonight is the parameters resolution. We also have a meeting scheduled with your authority right after this. We would then be set to price the bonds, actually lock in the interest rates, probably the first or second week of December, and then the transaction will close sometime right around Christmas. This page here just gives you a quick illustration of basically the 3 different bond issues that the school district has outstanding. And the one we have highlighted in yellow in column 2, those are the 2016 bonds. We also have been watching the 2017 bonds and 2018, just based on the various circumstances related to each one of those. They are not producing any economic benefit at this time, whether it's because of their existing interest rates, maybe being a little bit lower, or their prepayment dates are a little bit longer. We've analyzed, and those other 2 are not producing any economic benefit, just a series of 2016. And I will note on this page that if you see the structure or the maturity of the 2016 bonds as they currently are, the goal and the actual kind of transaction itself, if you decide to move forward with it, is not extending the debt in any way, shape, or form. It's keeping the same end date, same maturity, basically just going from a higher rate to a lower rate, assuming we're able to hit the target, and that's what is achieving the economic benefit. And then on this page here, just a real brief summary of the transaction. Now again, this is all preliminary numbers. Again, as I stated on one of the prior pages, we have not locked in the interest rates yet. Number one, because the school district now is just entertaining a resolution this evening, but there's still a lot more paperwork that we need to go through along with your business office to get us to the point where we can actually lock in the rates with the underwriter. But right now, what we're looking at, and again, there's a fair amount of volatility in the interest rate market, but net savings right now of about $260,000 or so. From a percentage standpoint, that's very good. It's over 3% savings. But again, there's a lot of volatility we're seeing in the market. Last week we saw right after the election, kind of rates come down a little bit this week due to some other issues. We're seeing rates go back up. So we're going to continue to see that up and down in the market until the time we're actually able to price. One thing I will mention that this bond issue, because we're about 2 years away from the call date on those 2016 bonds, per IRS regulations, this financing will be done with taxable bonds as opposed to tax-exempt bonds. But even with that kind of difference in nomenclature and tax benefit to the actual investors, that still is producing substantial savings. Right now, especially because of the short nature of this transaction, not being very long, there's actually very little difference between tax-exempt rates and taxable rates, again, in this duration. So I did want to point that out, that it is slightly different than some of the debt that the school district has issued in the past. But again, that's all taken into account into to the savings members. So there you see in column 4 would be assuming today's interest rates, the way the savings would fall into place. We're looking at about 120,000 of savings in the 2021 year, and about 140,000 following fiscal year, and then basically about much thereafter until the maturity of the transaction. So we're going to try and take as much savings as possible up front. The rest of this is more or less just the details. I won't really get into much of this, but on this page, this shows the existing amortization of the 2016 bonds, and in column 3 you see the rate right now 4%, and the total amount of bonds that we're funding in column 2. Then if we skip a couple of pages, we go to the savings page, which again was just summarized on one of the prior pages. This would be what the hypothetical new bond issue would look like, again, assuming today's rate, but we have a few weeks until we're actually able to lock in. And over on the right-hand side, again, you can see a little bit more detail of the savings. And then lastly here, we have an estimated sources and uses, which will be broken out in more detail as we get closer. But basically, you're going from a 4% down to about a 1.36%, and that's what's generating those savings that we've shown in the prior page. Not because we're extending any debt or changing maturity, just going from that 4% rate down to something much lower. And then lastly, just before we kind of get into the resolution, something that the school board has entertained before. Well, the last page is the actual maximum parameter schedule that's in the resolution. So even though we're anticipating issuing about $8.5 million to refinance, the amount that's in the resolution is a not to exceed amount of $10 million. Again, we expect to be well below that. It's just something that the way that your bond counsel and the whole team kind of structures the transaction, files the paperwork with the state, and then after the state approves the transaction and we price the transaction, your bond counsel will then file additional paperwork with the state to reflect the final amount. Thank you for changing that. So in case you're wondering why the resolution may say $10 million, but the numbers I was showing about $8.8 million, that's the main difference. Again, it's a similar structure that the district had entertained in some of the prior transactions as well. That's why it's called a parameters resolution. So those are kind of a summary of the actual transaction itself. The resolution that's before you basically puts all that information in more legalese. I know one thing that I've been talking with Mr. Watson about is a potential net savings target, and that would be the net savings after issuance costs. So that would be the true savings that the district would realize, and recommending 2.5% for that savings target, which is a little over $200,000. So again, the volatility in the market, we're showing something a little bit higher right now based on today's interest rates. It could be very different tomorrow, we just don't know. So I think maybe making an amendment to that resolution to have a savings target or a floor, that 2.5% might be beneficial for the board to consider. But again, other than that, the resolution that's before you basically just takes out all the numbers that I just went through and put it in resolution format. So happy to answer any questions. Your bond counsel, I believe, was on the screen. I'm sure he'd be happy to answer any questions as well.
And I will continue to work with Scott and the rest of the team. So if anybody has any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I know we have a conference call scheduled for next week to go through some of the district financials. But if you do come up with a question, just please reach out to me and I'll get you a response.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you for your time, Scott.
You bet. Thank you. Thank you.
And if I could just remind, we have a school authority and there are 3 gentlemen in attendance tonight. Thank you for coming. So what we are going to do is we actually have to act on the same resolution. We're going to leave and we're going to go over to the CSC or school authority meeting so that we can adopt those resolutions as well. Okay?
Okay, this time I make a motion that we approve Resolution 104 to approve the 2016 bond refinancing parameters. We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Okay, this is a roll call vote. Dr. George, do you have a question?
I do. I couldn't see any of this information, obviously. The bottom line is, we will say what? What does the bottom line say about that?
You should know.
Based on, based on the parameters that we set of a base or a minimum base of 2.5%, projected savings would be about $204,000. What Mr. Shearer was showing in the report showed, I believe it was around, if we were to do it today, it was around 3.29%, which was around $268,000. So we hope not to get the whole way down to that bottom line. We hope it's slightly higher than the 204, but basically we're saying if the savings is below that amount, we're not going to move forward with it.
And that's the savings, I have another question. That's the savings after they take everything?
Yes.
Is that a yearly savings or is that a one-time savings?
That is a one-time savings, and that savings is net of the closing costs, so it's after they take or reduce the closing costs from our initial savings.
And what are the closing costs? I can see that number.
I do not believe that was included in the presentation, but I can certainly get that information together and get it out to the full board.
Is that a negotiable savings or is that something we just have to stick with?
Could you repeat that question, Mike?
Their closing costs, is that negotiable or is that just a bottom line fee?
I don't want to speak for them, but I'm assuming that there is some room for negotiation, but it wouldn't be a great deal.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Mrs. Borowski?
Mrs. Kozer? Yes. Mrs. Maines? Yes. Mr. McCommons? Mr. Music?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mrs. Surratt? Yes. Mr. LaCasio?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
And Dr. George?
Yes.
That motion carries. I'm going to bundle resolution 105 and 106 and ask for your approval of the treasurer's report and payment of bills.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Those motions carry. Next, I ask you to approve resolution 107 to authorize the homestead, farmstead exclusion application mailing.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. The next Finance Committee will be on Tuesday, December 1st at 5:30 in the library. And the meeting minutes from the last committee meeting in October are attached. We'll now go to Mr. Palmer with Facilities and Operations.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I would ask the board to approve resolution 2020-2021, number 108, approved combustion service and equipment company, DMC service agreement.
We have a motion on the floor and a second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? That motion carries.
I would also ask the board to approve resolution number 109, permission to advertise bids for maintenance replacement vehicles.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
And our meeting minutes from facilities was November 5th, and the meeting minutes are attached. Our next facilities operations planning committee meeting will be Thursday, December 3rd at 3:30 at the administration building. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you. Next, we're going to go to student activities and recreation. I move for the adoption of Resolution 110 to approve the 2020-2021 school clubs, officers, and sponsors. We have a second? Okay. Questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? That motion carries. Our next athletic committee meeting will be this Thursday, November 12th at 3:30. Mr. Mears, will that be at the senior high conference room or?
Yes.
Okay. Next, community relations, Mrs. Mays.
Thank you. The Latrobe GLSD Parks and Recreation Unit Commission meeting minutes from the meeting on October 22nd, 2020 are attached. And the next GLSD Parks and Recreation Commission meeting will be held on Thursday, November the 19th, 2020 at 4:30 p.m. in the Latrobe Municipal Building, Council Chambers. Thank you. Who's got it?
Thank you. Please.
Okay, the summary of the Westmoreland Intermediate Unit Board meeting minutes from the meeting on October the 22nd, 2020 are attached. The next Westmoreland Intermediate Unit Committee meeting will be held on Tuesday, November the 24th, 2020 at 7 p.m. The location to be determined because we're still doing online meetings. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Music, transportation.
Thank you. Last month, the board approved resolution number 116, which is authorized payment to DMJ Transportation at 90% of the originally agreed upon daily rate from November the 2nd through November 13th.
We have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Any questions or comments?
Thank you. Mr. Vice President, what was the actual number of days?
8.
8. Okay.
Since this is an item that has been added to the agenda, you haven't had a chance to speak to it if you wish. I'm going to open up again to hearing of visitors for this particular resolution that's authorizing the payment to DMJ Transportation at 90% of the originally agreed upon daily rate from November 2nd through November 13th for the days we would have been in school. Anyone who wishes to come up and address the board on this issue? Anyone who wishes to speak on this issue? Okay, seeing none, then I'm going to ask for all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you, sir. Next, we're going to go to Mrs. Kozar for EWCTC Joint Operating Committee.
Yes, our last meeting was October 28th, and the agenda is attached. The agenda for that meeting is attached. And the next EWCTC Joint Operating Committee reorganization meeting will be Wednesday, December 2nd, 5:45 at EWCTC. Not quite sure what that looks like yet. It's usually a really wonderful evening. Don't think that's going to be the case this evening. So that completes my report.
Thank you. Next is board policy. Dan, is there anything you want to say regarding the business travel accident insurance? Oh, he's not here. Is it?
Yeah, if the board, you each have something in your place.
There's excuse me, answer place about travel insurance, and please see Jody for any questions on that.
And the next board policy committee meeting will be to be determined. Dr. Zorch, is there anything you want to add to that Board policy.
I do. I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Palmer, technology.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I just want to make note that we thank the Greater Latrobe Partners and Education Foundation for a generous grant of $100,000 towards the purchase that we just received of 1,000 Chromebook devices to be distributed soon over a period of time. They're here, they're being programmed, and it was a big deal. Also, the CARES Act, we recovered $135,000 from the CARES Act and $99,000 from the Energy Agency, right? So it was a pretty big night for us, and if you think about it, please donate to the Greater Latrobe Partners in Education Foundation. Thank you. And our next meeting is Tuesday, February 18th at the CSC at 6 p.m. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Next, superintendent's recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. LaCasio. I would ask for the board to please move on resolution number 111 to approve resignations of Peter Kuda, boys lacrosse coach, Sam Devine, custodian, and Claudia Quinn, custodian. I'd like to thank the individuals for their service to our school district and wish them the best.
So moved.
We have a motion on the floor and a second. Questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries.
I ask the board to please move on resolution number 112 to approve professional personnel substitute teachers as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
I'd ask the board to please move on resolution number 113 to approve support personnel classified appointments as stated.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor and a second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? That motion carries.
I'd ask the board to please move on resolution number 114 to approve a sabbatical leave. The Greater Latrobe School Board of School Directors to approve Annette Lopresti, grade 4 teacher at Bagley Elementary School for 1.5 year school term sabbatical leave starting January 20th, 2020 through June 7th, 2021, this should say, for professional development. Again, Annette Lopresti, grade 4 teacher at Bagley Elementary for 1.5 school term sabbatical leave starting June 20th, 2021 through June 7th, 2021 for professional development.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor and a second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? That motion carries.
I'd ask the board to please move on resolution number 115 to approve the memorandum of understanding for employee personnel matter number 3 of the 2020-21 school year.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor and a second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? That motion carries.
And under other business, Veterans Day is tomorrow, Wednesday, November 11th, and there is no school for students or faculty. November 25th will be an early dismissal to begin our Thanksgiving break, which will occur from November 26th through November 30th. It's hard to believe we're approaching this holiday season so quickly. Our next board meeting will be our reorganization meeting, which will be held at 7 o'clock p.m. And the committee of the whole meeting will follow at 7:30 on Tuesday, December 1st, 2020. Our regular board meeting for December will be held Tuesday, December 15th at 7:30 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. This is now time for hearing of visitors part 2. This is where anyone in the audience can come forward with any concerns that they have. Please again state your name and address when you step up to the podium. And there's a 5-minute time. At this time, we're open to anyone else for hearing of visitors part 2. Okay, seeing none. Resolution 117 for adjournment. I make that motion. Do we have a second? Oh, wait, sorry. Do we have somebody? Oh, okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. This meeting is adjourned.